Welcome to PIT Rules of the Road training. To navigate throughout this training, click the Next button at the bottom of the screen upon completion of the slide. The purpose of this training is to provide concise, basic rules for the safe operation of powered industrial trucks, or PIT, in various working environments. The list of rules in this training is not intended to be all-inclusive. Additional rules for safe operation can be found in the PIT safety standard located on the EHS standards page of EHS SharePoint. All employees and third-party workers, to include temporary staff, contract labor, contractors, etc., are expected to consistently comply with these basic rules and all others presented in the PIT safety standard. No document can feasibly address every potential scenario and provide specific requirements as to how the PIT operator must safely operate PIT relative to the situation. But the core premise of safe PIT operation is that the PIT operator is trained to operate safely in the ever-changing environment of our facilities. The PIT operator is entrusted to make sound decisions regarding safe PIT operation in the absence of specific guidance. PIT are powerful equipment that are imperative in a warehouse environment, but also has the potential to cause fatal injuries. As such, all PIT operators will be held accountable for its safe operation. Today we will be discussing the PIT rules of the road. There are 5 different categories that the rules fall into: general, pre-operations, operations, pedestrians, and incidents. At the end of the training, you will take a quiz to demonstrate your knowledge of these rules. Let's get started with the general category for rules of the road. The general category of PIT rules of the road provides you with the basic rules surrounding safe operator use. As an operator, it is important for you to understand that you have an obligation to hold yourself and others accountable to consistent safe operation and maintenance of PIT. You are expected to make sound decisions regarding safe operation. Remember, in an ever-changing environment such as a warehouse or on the production floor, all rules cannot be listed out or discussed in training. Operators must be able to make decisions with safety in mind and know when to ask for help. If you are unsure of something, you should immediately and safely stop and ask for guidance if written rules regarding safe operation are not available. PIT can be dangerous and, therefore, it is a privilege to operate. Training is imperative to ensure the safety of the operator as well as all those they interact with. Before you can operate PIT, you are required to review the site's location-specific PIT rules of the road for your division annually. This will provide you with important information specific to your building, such as high-traffic areas or congestion zones. If you transfer to another division or are helping out somewhere besides your home division, you must complete a walkthrough of that site while discussing the location-specific PIT rules of the road with the local PIT trainer to be authorized to operate PIT at a different site. It's also important to remember to never operate PIT or an attachment for PIT without all appropriate training from a qualified PIT trainer and without holding a current Veritiv PIT certification. Even though you will be trained on operating PIT following this certification, you must never operate PIT at a customer's, a vendor's, or any other third-party site. The equipment could be different than what you are used to, and you do not know the other site's safety rules. You are responsible to make sure that the manufacturer's operator manual is on the PIT you are operating. You, as the PIT operator, has a responsibility to follow all manufacturer procedures and recommendations to ensure safety and care of the equipment. Report any missing operator's manuals to your supervisor. Now let's head back to the warehouse and see if Ed is staying safe while operating his PIT. Ed is not making a safe choice. He needs to keep his arm and upper body inside the operator compartment at all times to help protect himself. Ensure you keep your arms, legs, and all other body parts within the constraints of the operator compartment at all times when PIT is moving. Now let's go back to Ed to see him operate safely. Great job, Ed. You've completed the general section of PIT rules of the road. Let's move on to pre-operations. The pre-operations category of PIT rules of the road provides you with the information you must know and tasks you must complete before beginning your work with the PIT. When you plan on using the PIT, the first thing you should do is complete the PIT pre-shift inspection. Let's head back to the warehouse to watch Jason start his inspection. Jason is doing a great job inspecting his PIT. He is beginning with the horn function and going down the list on the approved PIT inspection checklist. If the PIT pre-shift inspection reveals any issues, do not use that PIT. Tag the PIT out of service until repair is complete. Never use PIT that is unsafe, as this could be dangerous. Let's go back to the warehouse and see if Lee will make the right choice. Lee did not make the right choice here. Never remove an out-of-service tag or place PIT into service if it has not been repaired. The out-of-service tag means that there is an issue with the PIT that must be corrected prior to use. Before utilizing the PIT, verify the capacity of the PIT so you know how much it can safely handle. Keep the center of gravity inside the three sides of the stability triangle. Ensure you do not end up in a dangerous situation by overloading the PIT or not placing the load correctly on the forks. Horseplay or unintended use is dangerous to you and those around you and is strictly forbidden. If you see others participating in unsafe manners, tell them to stop or alert a supervisor of the unsafe behavior. You've completed the pre-operations section of PIT rules of the road. Let's move on to operations. The operations category of PIT rules of the road provides you with information on how to safely operate PIT. This will ensure your safety, as well as others in the warehouse. Seat belts or appropriate and properly worn personal fall protection gear, for example, full body harness and retractable lanyard, must be worn by PIT operators at all times if the PIT is in motion. Conditions within the warehouse can change drastically and quickly. It is important to always remain aware of conditions in your travel path, especially after completing a task. Continuously recheck your travel path and ensure that you are clear to move the PIT. Ensure you are aware of the traffic plan for dock areas and congested areas of the site. PIT are valuable pieces of equipment that help us do our jobs effectively and safely, when used in the correct manner. Let's discuss a few more rules that are important to remember to keep us safe while utilizing these tools. Never travel with an elevated load. Forks and loads must be maintained as close to the floor as possible, with forks spaced as wide as the load will allow during travel. Space the forks evenly and ensure they are fully under the load before lifting. Never allow personnel to stand, pass, or work under the elevated portion of any PIT, loaded or empty, and no person shall be elevated on the forks of PIT. This is extremely dangerous and could lead to deadly consequences. Ensure that body parts are not near any moving parts of the PIT. Never put any body part into the mast area or near lift chains. Keep your feet out from under the forks at all times. Man lift attachments are prohibited. Instead, equipment, such as order pickers, must be used. Driving PIT with an obstructed view is a major hazard. The operator could hit something, or worse, a person. Let's take a look at another incident in the warehouse, where Paul should have been driving in reverse. This could have been a serious incident. Paul needs to travel in reverse if the load obstructs his vision. It is also important to remember to honk your horn or ensure the backup alarm and strobe are fully functional before moving your PIT. Do you see what's wrong with this picture? If you said that there is a box being stored on the overhead guard, you are correct. You should never carry or store items on the overhead guard of the PIT. This is dangerous and can easily become a hazard. If working in a warehouse where glassware is stored, ensure you have a clear acrylic overhead guard in place on lift equipment for further protection. Traffic rules help ensure the safety of pedestrians, but they also keep PIT operators safe. Be sure to operate PIT at an appropriate speed for the circumstances at hand. If there is a congested area, slow down. If you are close to the dock, slow down. Be aware of your surroundings. Ensure that you always maintain a distance of at least 3 truck lengths while traveling behind another piece of PIT, and never overtake or pass other moving PIT when traveling in the same direction. When traveling on an inclined surface, PIT must be driven in reverse when descending and driven forks forward when ascending. Always ensure that loads are stable and secure, and in no case should the PIT operator or any other worker attempt to manually stabilize a large load. You can, however, unload the PIT and restack the load. Rolls must be transported banded or otherwise secured. Never double stack pallets when using a pallet jack. And when loading or unloading a truck with motorized PIT, it must be in slow speed, also known as turtle mode. Extreme care shall be taken when tilting loads. Tilting forward with the load engaging meaning forks elevated, is prohibited, except when picking up a load or placing it onto the rack. Elevated loads shall not be tilted forward, except when the load is being deposited onto a storage rack or equivalent. When stacking or tiering, backward tilt must be limited to what is necessary to stabilize the load. Dock levelers must be flush with the truck with no visible gap between the dock and the truck before PIT enters the vehicle. Before crossing a dock plate and entering a truck or trailer, it is important to ensure all areas are safe. Be sure that the truck or trailer's brakes are set and wheel chocks are in place on one side of the vehicle, even when there is a dock lock system. Ensure that the glad hand lock procedure has been executed, and make certain that a trailer jack stand is used to support an uncoupled trailer. The following markers show what to check for inside the dock and truck or trailer. All operators must practice the 3 points of contact technique when entering or exiting PIT. You can see that the operator has contact with their left hand, right hand, and their foot. As a reminder, never step or jump from an PIT that is moving. Stopping the MHE before you exit is very important to keep you, the operator, safe. Let's take a look at a scenario in the warehouse where George does a great job ensuring that the PIT is completely stopped before he begins to exit the equipment. Great job staying safe, George. When parking the PIT, ensure that you set the parking brake and level and lower the forks all the way to the floor. It's important to note that if you will be more than 25 feet away from the PIT, or cannot visually see the equipment, you must also turn off the engine and remove the key. Parking PIT on an incline, ramp, or dock plate is strictly prohibited, unless there is an unexpected event, such as a mechanical breakdown. Keeping our warehouse clean and orderly is a big part of safety. Debris on the floor could become a hazard. Someone could trip over it, or it could cause damage to the MHE. Be a good steward of your building and take pride to keep it clean. Let's watch another scenario from the warehouse and see if Lee makes the right choice. Lee made a great choice and stopped to pick up the debris. He avoided a safety hazard and kept his warehouse clean. Never drive over debris on the floor. Stop, pick it up, and dispose of it properly. It only takes a few seconds, but can have a big impact on the warehouse and your coworkers. You've completed the operations section of MHE Rules of the Road. Let's move on to pedestrians. The pedestrian category of PIT Rules of the Road provides you with information on rules related to PIT operations that will keep operators and pedestrians safe. As a PIT operator, you are responsible for completely stopping at all intersections, sounding the horn, and slowly turning around corners. Let's head to the warehouse to see how it's done. It is extremely important for PIT operators and pedestrians to look out for each other on the floor to avoid incident. The PIT operator should never come within 10 feet of a pedestrian. This is called the zone of safety. To ensure we keep pedestrians safe, the PIT operator must always stop the vehicle's movement whenever a pedestrian comes into the 10-foot zone of safety and do not move it again until the zone of safety is clear. PIT operators approaching pedestrians outside of designated walkways, such as when a group is conducting facility inspections, shall completely stop the PIT until the pedestrians move away or step aside and communicate to the PIT operator that they may proceed. Pedestrian foot traffic is very common in most warehouses. Keeping pedestrians safe must be a priority. Over 20% of forklift-related accidents involve pedestrians. It is important to ensure that you remain aware of designated pedestrian walkways, reduce your speed, and make eye contact with the pedestrian in those walkways. You must also reduce the speed of PIT near doorways, on inclines or declines, driving over dock plates, when turning corners, and in congested areas. We want to ensure that we keep pedestrians in the warehouse safe. Let's head back to the warehouse for a close call scenario.
Stop!
Paul made a dangerous decision. He should never drive MHE up to a person, particularly a person who is between the MHE and a solid object such as racking, a pallet, or a desk. Make sure you regularly look at the location-specific PIT rules of the road so you know what areas in your warehouse have been deemed high hazard. This assessment will provide you with high-hazard intersections, corners, and heavily congested areas specific to your warehouse or another site's high-hazard areas if you are helping at another location. Also, ensure that you are aware of the traffic plan for dock areas and other congested areas. You've completed the pedestrian section of PIT rules of the road. Let's move on to incidents. The incidents category of PIT rules of the road provides you with information on reporting safety concerns and incidents in the warehouse, to include close calls. Immediately report to your supervisor any conditions that do not allow the equipment to operate safely, as well as any concerns about the condition of the PIT or conditions in the workplace. Exercise your stop work authority when you are concerned about an unsafe practice. Reporting unsafe conditions can save you or a coworker from getting injured. Unsafe equipment or work conditions should be fixed promptly to ensure everyone's safety. Report all incidents and close calls involving PIT to your supervisor immediately. Reporting incidents and close calls allows the opportunity to investigate the incident to determine what went wrong and put measures in place to ensure that the incident or close call does not happen again. When incidents occur, it is important to learn from them. You may be requested to actively participate in PIT incident investigations. It is important to investigate different perspectives when looking at an incident to really understand how best to mitigate it in the future. If you do have an incident involving PIT, you may not operate PIT until you have been recertified by a qualified PIT trainer. This allows the PIT trainer to observe the individual and help alleviate any potential issues so we do not have future incidents. You've completed the incident section of PIT rules of the road. In this training, we discussed the PIT rules of the road. We worked through all 5 categories: general, pre-operations, operations, pedestrians, and incidents. Be sure to visit the EHS SharePoint site for the PIT standard, PIT rules of the road, and all other related information and forms. Please reach out to your regional EHS manager if you have any questions. You will now proceed to the quiz.